Welcome back to the deep dive.
Hey, it's good to be back.
So, on the table today, we have a stack of documents that, if you just glance at them, they look a little unassuming.
Yeah, just some typewritten pages.
Right. Archive notes, maybe a little bit dusty.
Yeah.
But when you actually sit down and read the words on these pages, wow, this is the kind of stuff that will keep you awake for a week.
Or maybe make you afraid to go to sleep.
Maybe a bit of both, yeah. We're looking at a very specific slice of history today. We are diving into the early sessions, Book 5 of the Seth material.
And specifically, we're unpacking session 220.
Which was recorded on January 5, 1966.
That's the one.
Now, before we really unzip this reality-bending file, we have to do the usual housekeeping.
Yep.
This deep dive, like all of them, is distributed totally free of charge on all the major platforms, and it's for educational purposes. We're here to explore the source material, analyze the ideas, and see what sticks.
And we absolutely have to give a huge nod to the people who preserved this. This material comes to us from the New Awareness Network.
That's right.
If you find yourself listening to this and thinking you need to know more, and trust me, you probably will, you have to go to the source.
You really do. You can find the books, the recordings, all of it at sethcenter.com for the early sessions.
Yeah.
We're just the guides here. They are holding the map, so, support their work.
Absolutely. It's so important.
Okay. So let's set the scene. It's 1966. We're in Elmira, New York. It's winter.
Cool.
We're dealing with Jane Roberts, the author and medium, and her husband, Robert Butts, who is meticulously, transcribing all of these sessions. But this particular story, it doesn't start at the Ouija board.
No.
It starts in bed.
It starts in that weird kind of gray area of consciousness.
Exactly. So Rob is lying in bed. It's December. He's just trying to take a nap. And he slips into that state that we call the hypnagogic state. For anyone listening who hasn't, audited a psychology class in a while, can we just unpack that term? What is actually happening to your brain there?
So the hypnagogic state is basically that transition phase. You're not fully awake, but you're not really asleep yet either.
You're just drifting.
You're drifting. Your brain waves are shifting from that active beta state, the thinking, worrying state, down into alpha and then theta.
So the ego's grip is loosening.
That's the perfect way to put it. The barriers we usually have up against what we call irrational data, they start to dissolve. Artists use it for ideas. Inventors use it. In Rob's case, he was kind of using it to act as a receiver.
He was fishing.
He was fishing. He's just lying there, eyes closed, floating. And then all of a sudden, the line goes taut.
And he realizes he's not alone. And this isn't like, oh, I feel a presence in the room. This is visceral.
It's incredibly physical. Rudd describes realizing that he is staring directly into another pair of eyes.
And let's be really specific about the proximity here.
Yeah.
Because this is the detail that it gave me the creeps.
Inches. He says 2 inches away from his face.
2 inches. If you're listening, just hold your hand up to your face right now. Put it 2 inches from your nose.
Yeah.
That is a serious invasion of personal space.
It's confrontational. And the details that Rob records are they're high definition. He isn't seeing a blur. He sees masculine, deep, luminous, golden brown eyes.
Wow.
He even describes seeing the reddish rims of the eyelids. He can see the individual black lashes. He sees the texture of the skin around the eyes, which he notes is a light brown.
So he's completely locked in this gaze. And as his perception widens out a bit, and remember, his physical eyes are closed, this is all internal vision, but it feels 100% real, he starts to see the rest of the face.
And that's where the sort of angelic vibe kind of drops off.
Yeah, it does.
He describes the face as having long, black, shining hair, heavy brows, and he uses the word primitive.
Primitive.
He says it looked animalistic, almost like a throwback to an early human ancestor. Just this hairy, golden-eyed being hovering 2 inches from his nose.
Okay, so if this were a movie, right, this is the jump scare. But Rob's initial reaction is actually really interesting because he notes the intelligence in the eyes first.
Right. He says the eyes were impassive. They weren't angry. They weren't hunting him.
They were just looking.
They were just watching. It was a stare of, pure curiosity.
But Rob, he doesn't stay in that scientific observer mode for very long.
No. Biology takes over. And this is the part of the transcript that is so deeply relatable and honestly, it's kind of funny in hindsight.
It really is.
Rob, the guy who spends his nights documenting the secrets of the universe, who wants to know what's out there.
The guy who is asking for this stuff.
He absolutely loses it.
He panics.
Total meltdown. He writes in his notes, I reacted violently. He starts thrashing around in the bed. He's waving his arms, probably trying to, like, punch this thing or push it away. He's yelling.
He wakes up Jane.
Yeah, he actually wakes up Jane, who was sleeping peacefully next to him. She had no idea what was going on.
It is the absolute classic, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
You ask the universe for a sign, and the universe puts a face right in your face, and you just scream, get it away from me.
Precisely. And the regret was immediate. As soon as that adrenaline faded, Reed realized what he'd done. He says he knew he had terminated something much too soon.
Oh, man.
He felt foolish. It's like kicking a guest out of your house because they startled you. And then you realize, oh, wait, that was the guy bringing me the winning lottery ticket.
Right, right. So this all happens in December. Fast forward to January 5th. They sit down for session 220. Seth comes through Jane. And Rob, I'm assuming, is probably expecting a bit of a lecture, or at least some reassurance.
Yeah, maybe don't worry, Rob, it was just a nightmare. You ate some bad pizza.
Exactly. But Seth does not give him that out.
No, he confirms it immediately. He says, and this is a direct quote, this was not imaginary.
That is a heavy sentence, not imaginary.
It validates the entire experience. Seth confirms that this was a valid contact with an inhabitant of another system. But then Seth flips the script. And this is the first huge insight of this whole deep dive.
Okay.
We always assume that in these kinds of encounters, you know, aliens, ghosts, interdimensional travelers, whatever, that we are the passive victims. We're the ones being haunted.
Right. We're the ones watching the horror movie from the inside.
Seth says, no, you were the monster in that scenario.
Wait, what? Rob was the monster?
Think about perception. Seth explains that this being, this hairy, golden-eyed traveler, it has a very different psychological makeup than we do.
Okay.
Its field of attention is apparently much narrower, but its focus is incredibly intense. It's like, imagine a laser beam compared to our floodlight.
So, super focused.
Very. So to this being, Rob didn't look like a middle-aged man lying in a bed in Elmira, New York.
Yeah.
Perceptions change across dimensions.
Okay, so what did he look like?
Seth says that to this entity, Rob appeared as a mass of varying colors and as movement of severe intensity.
That sounds chaotic.
It is. And when Rob panicked, when he had that explosion of fear, that emotion didn't just stay inside Rob's head.
Oh.
In that dimension, emotion is energy. It's practically matter. So Rob's fear manifested as these violent, pulsating explosions of color and energy.
So the alien, let's call him that. He's just leaning in, taking a curious look, and suddenly the specimen on the bed just explodes into a firework display of pure terror.
Exactly. Seth literally says, you, my dear Joseph, literally frightened him away.
No way.
The being was bewildered. It didn't understand the emotion of fear. It just felt this blast of intense, chaotic energy and probably thought, whoa, this thing is unstable, and it bolted.
That recontextualizes every monster under the bed story I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
It's not that the monster is scary. It's that we are so energetically loud that we scare off the local wildlife.
We are the loud, obnoxious neighbors of the universe.
So who was this guy? Seth says he's from another system. Are we talking like Mars?
Yeah.
Alpha Centauri?
No, and this is where the transcript gets really technical and interesting. Seth is very specific that this is not about space travel in the way NASA thinks about it.
It's not about rockets and light years.
Not at all. He says this system is far beyond your own solar system, but he's talking about dimensional distance, not physical distance. He says this civilization exists within our physical universe, but it doesn't deal with physical matter.
So it's a density issue.
Yeah, or frequency.
Frequency or density, yeah. It's the classic radio station analogy. You can have 98.5 FM and 101.5 FM occupying the same physical space, but they don't interfere with each other because they're on different frequencies.
And this civilization is here alongside us, but we aren't tuned to their station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except when we're in that hypnagogic state, that's when the dial on our radio gets a little loose.
And this brings us to the concept that I really, really want to spend some time on, the inverted time system, because this broke my brain a little bit when I was reading through it.
It's a heavy concept for sure. Seth describes the time mechanics of this visitor's homeworld, and he calls it inverted time. How do we even begin to visualize something like that?
Well, thankfully, Seth uses an analogy of reincarnation to explain it, which is helpful because it gives us a framework we can sort of latch on to.
Okay.
So picture a standard timeline. You've got a soul and an entity that lives 10 different lives. Let's just call them individual 1 through individual 10.
Okay, so a linear progression. Life 1 is in the Roman Empire. Life 5 is here in 1966. Life 10 is in the year 3000 or something.
Right. In our system, we experience that one after the other, linearly. Individual 1 has absolutely no idea that individual 10 even exists.
No.
The Roman soldier doesn't know about the guy in the year 3000. There's a wall of time that separates them.
Got it. Clear so far.
Okay. In the inverted time system, that wall is gone.
Gone.
Completely. Individual 10 is fully aware of individual 1. Individual 5 is, conceptually hanging out with individual 9. It's a simultaneous gestalt.
Like gestalt, so they're all
Right.
present at the same time.
They're all accessible to each other. Seth says, and I'm quoting here, individual 10 may, so to speak, go back without confusion and enter into any experience undergone by any of the other individual.
Wait, hold on a second. So if I'm in this system, my future self, the finished version of me, can come back and essentially co-pilot my life right now.
Yes. And not just watch. He can change it.
What?
Seth is very explicit here. He says, the experiences of individual 2, for example, are constantly being changed because of the intervention of the other personalities.
That destroys our whole concept of cause and effect.
It completely upends it. I mean, in our world, we think, I touch the hot stove, I burn my hand, I learn a lesson not to touch the stove. Growth is sequential.
Right.
In their system, the wisdom of the future is available before the mistake is even made.
So maybe I go to touch the stove, and my future self just kind of nudges my hand away.
Right.
And in my memory, I never even burned myself in the first place.
Or maybe you do burn yourself, but the emotional trauma from it is instantly healed because your future self integrates it for you. It implies that their past is fluid. It's not written in stone. It's being constantly rewritten by the future.
It's like you're editing a Google Doc while you're still typing the first sentence.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And this is why that entity, that visitor, was so bewildered by Rob's reaction.
Oh, so.
Because in their system, there is no fear of the unknown. How can there be? The unknown is just a part of yourself that you haven't talked to yet.
Wow.
They have this pure single-minded perception, as Seth calls it. They don't have the defensive ego structures we have because they just don't need them. They are constantly being supported by their own greater whole.
And here comes Rob, trapped in his little box of linear time, terrified of the unknown, blasting fear energy like a foghorn in a library.
Exactly. We must look completely insane to them. We're cut off, we're isolated, and we're terrified of everything. They're connected, they're fluid, and they're just curious.
It makes you wonder, I mean, if they can do all that, why are they watching it? Is it like reality TV for them?
Pure curiosity. Seth says they explore. They just perceive other realities to see what's there.
Rob was just interesting scenery.
Until the scenery started screaming and throwing punches.
Right. The scenery is hostile, abort mission, abort.
Okay, so we have hairy dimensional travelers. We have inverted time where the future is constantly changing the past. These are massive high concept ideas.
Huge.
And usually when you hear stuff like this, the skeptic in the room, and there's always one, says, cool story, bro, prove it.
And Seth knows that. He anticipates that.
He does, and that's what separates the Seth material from a lot of other channel texts. He doesn't just philosophize. He does parlor tricks. He does tests.
The famous envelope tests.
Exactly. Walk us through this, because this session wasn't just about the alien. They did some actual work. They did. It was part of their routine. Rob would try to verify Seth's ability by sealing items or questions in envelopes. Then Jane, while channeling Seth, would have to describe what was inside or give impressions related to it.
No peeking. Basically double blind.
Essentially, yeah. And in this particular session, they also discuss a guy named Dr. Instream.
Right.
Seth just starts rattling off these very specific, almost mundane, clairvoyant details about this Dr. Instream. He mentions a navy blue scarf that's on a chair in his office. He talks about a letter from a grumbling man in the Midwest. He describes an oval clock with gold decorations.
See, that's the kind of stuff that convinces me more than the alien stories sometimes.
How do you mean?
A navy blue scarf on a chair. It's so boring it has to be real. If you were making it all up, you'd say he is surrounded by a golden aura of profound healing. You wouldn't say he can't find his scarf.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's the triviality that validates the mechanism. It shows that Seth is actually viewing physical reality remotely, but the real mic drop in this session is the envelope test with the sales slips.
This is the dark brown coat incident. I loved this part.
Okay, so the target object inside the sealed envelope is 2 sales slips. Super boring, right?
Yeah.
Just receipts from some Christmas shopping.
Right. Useless.
But Seth doesn't just read the text on the slips. He doesn't say a receipt for $5.99. He seems to bypass the paper itself and go for the energy attached to it.
So what does he see?
He starts describing a dark or darkish brown coat the color of some uniforms.
Okay, so where does that come from?
Well, one of the sales slips was for a corduroy sport coat Rob had just bought. A dark brown one.
Okay, so he sees the coat that the slip is for. That's step one. Makes sense.
Then Seth says, connect this with a Marine.
A Marine. Was it a Marine coat?
It wasn't, but Rob notes in the transcript that the brown color of his new corduroy coat was almost identical to the U.S. Marine winter topcoat.
Okay, but that's still kind of a loose connection.
Yeah.
It looks like a Marine coat. I mean...
It is, but here's the kicker. Earlier that very day, Rob and Jane had been out walking, and they saw a Marine in his full uniform. They actually stopped and looked at him for a moment.
All right.
So now look at the chain of logic that Seth is surfing here. He touches the envelope. He senses the sales slip inside. He links the slip to the coat Rob bought.
Right.
He links the color of the coat to the concept of a Marine, and then he links that concept to the very recent memory of the Marine Rob and Jane saw that morning.
It's a scramble of information.
It is a scramble, but it's a perfect demonstration of how telepathy or clairvoyance actually seems to work. It's associative. It's not like reading a fax machine. It's like pulling a single thread in a giant spider web. You pull coat, and the vibration travels to color, which travels to Marine, which travels to memory.
He also mentioned crowded. Any voices? Dancing. What was that about?
Rob confirmed that too. The first time he wore that new brown coat was to a party on December 30th. It was crowded, there was music, people were dancing.
So the object, the little sales slip, is basically a hyperlink.
Yes, that's the perfect word for it.
It's a hyperlink to the coat, to the party, to the Marine, to the memory of seeing the Marine. All of it is clustered together in consciousness.
And Seth sees the whole cluster at once. He calls it an event cluster. To him, the receipt is the party. The coat is the Marine. Time and space don't separate them for him the way they do for us.
Which really reinforces that whole inverted time concept we were just talking about, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Everything is connected. The past, the present, the random associations, it's all one big soup.
Precisely.
Okay. So we've covered the alien encounter. We've covered the nature of time. We've covered the psychic validation. But the session takes a turn in the last third that I think is arguably the most useful part for, the listener who's driving to work right now.
I agree. The metaphysics are a blast, but the life advice here is brutal and practical.
Rob was in a bad mood.
He was grumpy. He calls it a car episode.
Oh, we have all had a car episode.
For sure. The engine is making a weird noise. The mechanic is going to be expensive. The logistics are a nightmare. Rob was just stewing in it. Yeah. He was frustrated, annoyed, and probably worrying about the money.
And Seth calls him out on it.
Immediately. He tells Rod that the session itself is actually suffering because of his mood. He says Jane isn't receiving the signal as clearly because she's picking up on Rob's static.
He uses a phrase that I underlined 3 times in the notes. Concentrated deeply within ego time.
Yes. When you allow disturbances to upset you, then you become concentrated so deeply within ego time that you close off those very abilities that you need to help you.
Concentrated in ego time. That is such a perfect description of what stress feels like. When you're stressed, the whole world just shrinks. You don't see the future. You don't see the big picture. All you see is the flat tire.
You get tunnel vision. And Seth explains the mechanics of worry here. This isn't just, don't worry, be happy. He explains what worry actually does to your reality.
So what does it do?
He says that when you obsess over a disturbance, you concentrate your creative energies upon the disturbance itself.
You're feeding the beast.
You are literally building it. You're taking your powerful, creative focus, the same focus that builds cities and writes symphonies, and you are aiming it like a fire hose to construct a bigger, better car problem.
Yeah, and he says you project the difficulty into the future.
Right. You are literally paving the road ahead of you with more broken cars. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You worry, so you project that energy out, which then manifests more trouble, which then gives you more to worry about.
It's a feedback loop from hell.
And Seth is very clear. The alternative isn't delusion. He uses the fantastic phrase, Pollyanna hogwash.
I love that so much. Pollyanna hogwash.
He's not saying just ignore the smoke coming out of the engine and pretend everything is fine. He's saying deal with the problem, but don't habitually concentrate on the negativity of it. Don't let it become your identity.
So what's the alternative then? If I'm standing on the side of the highway with a broken down car, how do I not concentrate on the problem?
Confidence. Seth says, if you direct your inner self with confidence to steer you through your physical existence, it will do so.
Direct your inner self with confidence.
It's about delegation.
Yeah.
It's about saying to your subconscious or your higher self, whatever you want to call it, okay, this is a mess. I'm officially handing this over to you. I trust you to find the solution. And then, and this is a really hard part, you have to actually let go of the worry.
Because the worry is the interference. It's the static on the line.
Exactly. If you are gripping the steering wheel of reality with white knuckles, your inner self can't step in and drive for you. You have to take your hands off the wheel.
And this connects all the way back to the alien eyes, doesn't it?
It's the exact same mechanism. Why did Rob scare the alien away? Fear. Why was Rob having a bad session? Frustration and worry. Both are forms of rigid negative focus.
Seth explicitly says that this kind of negative focus blocks psychic adventures.
Because the ego clamps down hard. If you're worried about a $1,000 repair bill, your defenses are way up. You're in survival mode. You're certainly not in a state to telepathically communicate with a golden-eyed traveler from an inverted time system.
It's a bandwidth issue. If your mental bandwidth is totally clogged with, my car is broken, you can't download the secrets of the universe.
And you can't even download the solution to the car problem. That's Seth's whole point. By obsessing, Rob was cutting himself off from the very intuition that might have told him, hey, just check the spark plugs, or take it to this mechanic over here, not that one.
It's a lesson in efficiency, really.
Yeah.
Worrying is just inefficient. It burns a ton of fuel and gets you absolutely nowhere.
And it actively repels the help you need, whether that help is a sudden idea, a stroke of good luck, or a helpful interdimensional being who happens to be a great mechanic.
I want to just circle back to that inverted time idea in this context, because if the future self can help the past self, then when we worry, are we essentially telling our future self, hey, stay away, I got this?
Or worse. Seth talks about turning expectation against you. If you constantly expect the car to stay broken, you are communicating with your future self. You're sending a memo to the future saying, please ensure the car is still broken tomorrow morning.
And the future self, being obliging, just says, okay, boss, broken it is.
But if you can change that expectation, if you can somehow borrow the confidence of a future where the problem is already solved, you change the timeline. You're telling the future self, show me the way to the solution.
That is a very cool and very practical way to use this high strangeness theory. You're basically partnering with your own future.
And apparently Rob listened.
Oh, he did?
He added a note to the transcript later. He wrote, to my great relief, Seth dealt with my car episode in the 223rd session. So evidently the advice worked. The car got fixed, or at least Rob stopped letting it ruin his life and his work.
It's just so funny how these sessions weave everything together. You get these cosmic revelations about inverted time and alien biology mixed right in with what is essentially marriage counseling and car repair advice.
That's the hallmark of the Seth material. It refuses to separate the spiritual from the physical. Your car troubles are just as spiritual as your visions because they both stem from how you choose to use your energy. It's all one thing.
So if we look at the big picture of session 220, what's the core takeaway for the listener? We've covered a lot of ground here.
I think the core theme is openness versus contraction.
Okay, break that down.
When Rob was open, in the hypnagogic state, relax, he saw a miracle. He saw into another reality. When he contracted into fear, the miracle vanished.
Right.
When he was open, the envelope tests worked. The intuition flowed. When he contracted into worry about his car, the flow just stopped.
So the instruction manual for life is basically stay open.
Stay open. Trust that there is a part of you that was way more than your ego does. And realize that fear is just a frequency. A loud, annoying frequency that scares away all the interesting guests.
And apparently creates bad luck with cars.
That too.
This has been a massive deep dive. We've gone from 2 inches away from a hairy face all the way to the mechanics of time travel. If you're listening to this and your brain is buzzing, that is a good sign.
It means you're stretching those neural pathways.
And if you want to read the full transcripts, including all the nitty-gritty of the envelope tests and Seth's specific wording on the inverted time system, you know what to do.
Go to the source. The New Awareness Network has preserved all of this. It's an absolute treasure trove of information.
Visit sethcenter.com/the early sessions. Buy the books. Read them. We're just scratching the surface here.
And, keep an open mind. You never know what or who might be just inches away.
That brings us to our final thought for the night. And this one's a little unsettling, I'm not going to lie.
Seth dropped a little crone at the end of the discussion about the eyes.
He did. He said that these contacts, these face-to-face meetings with other dimensions, happen frequently.
He says, and this is a quote, such encounters do occur with what would appear to be startling frequency, but they are very seldom remembered.
We brush against other dimensions all the time. We have visitors, we have peeping toms from inverted time systems, but our brain just filters it out.
Yeah.
We wake up and we say, huh, that was a weird dream. Or, I just had a restless night.
We edit the tape.
So, tonight, listener, when you lay your head down on the pillow and you start to drift into that hypnagogic state, just pay a little attention.
Did you feel a presence? Or if you see a pair of golden eyes staring back at you, try not to thrash around.
Yeah. Don't be like Rob. Don't be a primitive, loud, colorful explosion of fear.
Maybe just say hello.
Ask them what the future looks like. I mean, since they've already been there.
Or just ask them if they know how to fix a carburetor.
That's exactly. Priorities.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Good night, everyone. See you in the next dimension.